Hey, what's up guys? So, I want to go over the latest patch notes for the PTR on Overwatch because there's a lot of changes that I think can affect the game quite well in a positive way. Honestly, was not too much of a fan of the double shield meta when Sigma came out. He absolutely did wreak havoc in the game. But anyways, let's go ahead and actually go over the patch notes and talk a little bit about them. So, first off over here, we have a change with D.Va. She has a change with the defense matrix. The regeneration rate has been increased from 12.5% to 16% per second, and the delay before regeneration begins lowered from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. So basically, you're going to be able to defense matrix a lot more often now because your gauge actually fills a lot faster. I'm not sure if it's going to make D.Va like any more competitive than she is. Obviously, you're able to defense matrix more, but at the same time, the main problem with D.Va is when you throw up your defense matrix and you turn it off, then people ult. That's usually how it goes because previously before you just turn it on and off super fast. It was actually like really insanely good. But again, there's a huge difference with that. But overall, I don't know. You guys can let me know how you guys feel about that one or any of the ones down below. Overall, I'm not sure if it's going to make D.Va become more competitive. The next thing on the list is actually a change with Orisa. You can see that the cooldown on the protective barrier has actually been changed, and basically we don't really need to see too much of that. Other than the cooldown of the shield is actually 1 second longer, so it's going to give you more opportunistic windows if you're playing Widowmaker or Roadhog to actually go ahead and hook Orisa or just do whatever to Orisa. So there's just more potential. The next character actually got changed, which is my main boy over here, Roadhog. His change is actually minor, but there's actually a huge change in this patch that actually makes Roadhog a lot better. So really what it comes down to is Roadhog has an extra one shot in his clip, which is definitely nice. Sometimes you run into situations where you just need one extra shot. It can really help burn down those shields and then go for the hook. Because you can consistently now be able to get an additional shot. Not too big of a deal with that. But the main change with Roadhog that actually is huge. It actually has to do with Sigma. So his kinetic grasp no longer blocks chain hook and whip shot, which is actually a very huge thing. And if you guys are wondering what is whip shot, that is actually Brig's ability, which is on Q for me. So that's the change with Brig. And then, well, basically Sigma can't block it anymore, which at the end of the day, again, it's just more of a buff for Roadhog than anything. I don't see Brig too often in games, so I wouldn't really worry too much about like Brig seeing so much more play than now that has been changed. But in addition to that, Gravitic Flux, the high gravity effect duration is reduced from 1.2 to 0.9 seconds. So we're going to have to obviously build that up. That is his ultimate. But basically, it's less of a duration, so it's just going to be less of a way for Sigma to put people up in there and then follow up with like the autos. He just has to be a little bit faster. I don't think this makes him like absolutely terrible or like nowhere near unplayable, but with his experimental barrier, this is the actual nerf with Sigma over here, alright? This is what makes Roadhog so much better, is when he throws out his shield, in order to actually redeploy his shield, you actually have a delay. There's also a regeneration delay. Over here you guys can see, it says the regeneration rate is reduced from 175 to 150 per second, but it has a 1 second cooldown after recalling the barrier, so you can't reposition it as easy. So basically, as soon as that goes down, unless he's already channeling like his ability to go ahead and throw a rock, more than likely Roadhog is going to be able to hook him real easy because he can't like do anything because it doesn't block the chain hook, which is again the biggest change with that. And then also the initial 0.2 second cast time was removed, but again the biggest change is like the cooldown with being able to throw down the shield is actually huge. Again, for Widowmaker or Roadhog or anything that has like just a small like burst window, it's going to be a lot weaker against those types of characters. Now next up, this is actually a really huge buff for Winston. It is actually massive over here. So you guys can see Winston over here had some buffs. So Winston's barrier over here, the duration has actually been increased by 50%, which is huge. If you throw it down, it's going to last a lot longer. It actually lasts 9 seconds from its former 6 seconds. So again, that's a 50% increase. So if they don't melt the shield, that's huge. And on top of that, the health has been increased from 600 to 700. So Winston definitely will see a lot more viability in the game because of that. I mean, again, if you don't melt down that barrier, it's just going to go ahead and linger. And then the other change over here with Baptiste, it's actually going to be, overall, I would say great for the game. Sometimes it can be quite frustrating to have to deal with the immortality field, which really just comes down to its HP is just reduced by 50. I don't think we need to visually like, see too much with that. It's just it's easier to actually get rid of depending on what character is using the ultimate. Again, it's just much easier to get rid of, especially as Genji, because previously you had to swipe 3 times. That's what it hits for 120, unless of course you're nanoed. Now you just need to swing twice, so you can basically swing twice into them and the immortality field, and then follow up with a dash perhaps, and you can actually get some people eliminated, which is good. Next up over here, Lucio over here, Crossfade actually got changed, so the speed boost effect increased from 20 to 25%. So overall, that might help Ryan and Zarya a little bit more, but I'm curious to see how much Winston shakes up the meta with this newer change. And then also with this more recent change with Lucio, you can see amp it up, the speed boost amplification is increased from 50 to 60%. So again, another buff for maybe some other characters that have a little bit less mobility. While the speed buff reduced. So he actually kind of took a nerf here technically, but if you look at overall, I would say it's overall going to be a lot better. Next up, Mercy actually got changed. That's a surprise. I didn't expect them to touch Mercy like at all after they recently had nerfed her, I believe. The healing was reduced not too long ago. But really what it comes down to is with Mercy in Valkyrie, which is the ultimate, the extra beams created by Valkyrie now ignore enemy barriers. So overall, it's just a small little change to Mercy. Quite nice, but I don't think it's going to make her like absolutely like a must pick. It's not going to be insane. Now the next thing I want to talk about is Moira, which is probably one of the best healers in the game. Her Biotic Grasp, which is basically her damage ability, right? The self-healing has been reduced from 30 to 20 health per second. And what this really changes is in those moments where you're dueling as, let's say, a Tracer or anyone that really has to try to eliminate Moira really quickly, she's not going to be able to really duel against those as well. Like sometimes, like if you play Ashe, you just need that burn damage to tick a little bit faster, or if you're playing Soldier, you're not landing every single shot. Like Moira will just outwin the trade because it's 30 HP per second. So basically what it comes down to is it's a lot easier, I would say, for Tracer to actually engage on Moira, but like it's still overall not maybe the best of ideas. But we'll talk a little bit about Tracer's buff in a second. But yeah, that was overall, that's just a small little nerf to Moira. And then for Doomfist, this is actually an interesting change because some of you guys know I've been playing Doomfist on my Smurf because he's quite fun to play. So the time to reach max charge has been increased from 1 second to 1.4 seconds. That's this. Ooh, that actually feels a lot different. I actually haven't really tested this out. But overall, there's a lot of times where I would say the more advanced Doomfist players, you can go into certain areas and start charging up, right? Anyways, I mean, it just feels awkward to be honest. But the thing is that I don't know if this is going to make Doomfist like absolutely unplayable. He also took another nerf over here, so you can see the best defense, which is one of the passives he has, where the shield gain per hit was reduced from 35 to 30, which is interesting because I actually changed this a while ago. So basically, when you activate an ability, you're getting less shields now. However, I still think Doomfist is a very viable pick. You're just going to need to not rely on just going in and then trying to get another pick. Most Doomfists in general will basically use the Rocket Punch as like a disengage tool, and as long as they don't change it where you can like basically hold space and get like an extra like set of movement space with his ability, I don't think he's going to be like absolutely unplayable. The next one actually has to do with Sombras. So I would say this is a buff and a nerf in some senses. It actually depends on how you play Sombra. But the Translocator cooldown is increased by 2 seconds. So it used to be 4 and now it is 6 seconds. But cooldown now begins immediately upon deploying the beacon or if it is killed by an enemy. So what this allows you to potentially do, right, is you can put it in an area and then you can actually utilize that and then I guess throw it again and then you can utilize it instantly again. So this can actually be really useful for a lot of different plays that Sombra can technically make. I'd overall say it is a buff, but again, sometimes in the right circumstances, it could be considered a nerf as well. I don't know if this is going to make her like insanely good. Next up over here, we have the newer changes with Symmetra over here. So the Photon Barrier duration over here is changed from 15 to 12 seconds, so I would say that's obviously a nerf. And the health is reduced by 1,000. Okay, so that's again an overall nerf. The sentry damage per second is reduced from 40, or it used to be 50, and now it is going to be 40. So overall, that is another nerf on Symmetra. I'm not sure if this is going to really change it. It really came down to the beam basically melting people and being really easy to ramp up. But I'm curious to see if, since the meta might shift up, I think Winston will see a lot more play. Again, that's a huge buff for Winston. I'm curious how that will work. And it says players impacted by the primary fire beam should now hear a louder impact sound. I don't think this is going to really change anything. That's just a small little change over here. Next up, though, we have changes to Tracer over here. It says damage fall off now starts at 13 meters up from 10 meters. So there's obviously a buff for Tracer. So here's where 10 meters would actually occur. So instead of like shooting right here for your damage drop off where it would actually start, you could be, I guess, a little bit farther back. So maybe about right here is where Tracer would be a little bit more effective, because you can essentially be a little bit more safe. I guess overall what this might change up is perhaps a McCree matchup. You can kind of sit a little bit further away, which just feels really good. I don't really play Tracer too much. I tried on one of my Smurf accounts just to only play Tracer. I ended up getting Masters on it, but for the most part, I wouldn't say like I'm in like a Tracer main. But I feel like, again, that will really help out against McCree, that matchup. And again, you're able to space things a little bit better, and so she will definitely be a little bit better in, I guess, the McCree matchup specifically. But sometimes I just feel like there are better things to play as far as the DPS role. Even now with these newer changes, I'm not sure if that's going to make Tracer insanely good. But anyways, those are the patch notes, guys. I'm curious to know what you guys think about these patch notes. Do you guys think it's going to make this game a lot better? I think overall the barrier nerfs Sigma actually took the biggest nerf, I would say, overall with all these changes. But I'm actually excited to maybe perhaps play. But with PTR, you guys know how it goes. Like on this account, how do I even go to the profile? Last season, I was pretty much just playing Roadhog last season for the most part, or the last season I actually placed on this account. But for the most part, I would say Roadhog got really strong with the hook, the meta with the Orisa pull, but with the double shield, it was really difficult to play Roadhog, I would say. But now, again, Orisa took a small nerf, Sigma took the big nerf here, and I think I could just go hook Sigma. I mean, what is Sigma going to do? He has, unless you count his ultimate, he really doesn't have mobility. He can't absorb your hook, so you just go ahead and hook him and hit him twice. He loses out. Like, he's not going to be able to deploy that barrier fast enough. I can just walk right in front of it. And then with that cooldown, I mean, that's a huge opportunity to be able to just hook him. As soon as you see that hook go away, as long as you're within like a decent range, he's got to be really fast. And you just look out from the animation. Basically, what Roadhogs had to do before is you had to just melee and just hope that they would see that as the bait for you to actually hook, and then you'd be able to pull it off. So overall, I would say Roadhog is a little bit better now. We'll have to wait and see. I honestly want to see like a Roadhog and Winston lineup, because that would be actually quite fun. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the latest Overwatch patch notes. I would be curious to know what you guys think about this down below. Do you think the meta is going to shift? I definitely see Winston coming back into the game for sure. I feel like D.Va, it's just too small of a change, but maybe we'll see some Winston Hog or Winston and maybe Sigma. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But anyways, we'd love to know your thoughts down below, and I plan to make more Overwatch content. For those of you guys that like just followed me for Overwatch, honestly, dude, Modern Warfare came out, and there were so many other games that came out recently, and I just wasn't really enjoying the double shield barrier meta, and hopefully this will shift things up a little bit. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a good one, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you're new here and you want to see more Overwatch content, I do plan to upload some very soon. But I'm going to TwitchCon, so I'll catch you guys over on Monday for some more content. But anyways, thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good one, and I'm signing out. Peace.